I'm John Wuensche. I live here in Cleveland. Been here since 1972. I was born over near Tomball, Texas, in a small community called Huffsmith. I'm full-blooded German descent, and I've spoken the language all my life. I'll tell you why in just a minute. I went to school there for a couple of years in a little school called Cooper Hill. I got in trouble with the teacher, and I dropped out of school for about a week when I was in the 4th grade. But my family sent me to Tomball to school but I couldn't get promoted. But the teacher said I could go on in the 5th grade, but family made me repeat the 4th, which was a good idea, I think, in the long run. I stayed with my grandmother there in Huffsmith until I was 12 years old, and then I was sent to live with my mother and stepfather in Texas City, where I finished high school in 1935. I was admitted to Rice Institute in those days, and I went there 1 year, but I was not too happy at Rice. My best friend was a student at the University of Texas, so I went up there and got my degree there in 1939. I couldn't find a job because of the Great Depression, so I went back to school since I had a personal income. My real father was killed in World War I in France in the last battle on November the 2nd of 1918, and that's the reason I stayed with my grandmother. My mother left and went to Houston to get a job to support herself and me. She met a man there by the name of Concy Ross and married him, and he was also a World War I veteran, and he asked my mother if my father had insurance, GI insurance. She didn't know what the word insurance meant. So they got to look into it, and sure enough, my father did have the insurance, and it was $10,000, and they got that. But my mother couldn't share in it because she had remarried. So it all came to me, since I was the only other beneficiary. It paid for all of my music education, all of my school expenses, all the way through my BA degree from the university. And I still had quite a bit of money left. When Mother turned the estate over to me when I turned 21 in 1938 rather, it was worth $15,000. So that was a lot of money in those days. I went back and went to law school, and while I was in my first year of law school, I met a young lady from Illinois. Her name was Charlotte Thomas. She just happened to be 4 days younger than me, and when we were about 24 years old, we got married, and it wasn't long. You may remember that December the 7th of 1941, Japan attacked us at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and we were in war. I had determined, since my father was killed in World War I and he had been drafted, I was determined that I would not be drafted. If we got into war, I would enlist. I beat the draft board by 1 day. I enlisted May the 26th of 1942. I enlisted in the Air Force as a flying cadet, and they didn't have any place to train me then, so they put me on reserve till November the 1st of 42, and then I went to Santa Ana, California for pre-flight training. That was the coldest place in this world at that winter. Anyway, I went to a flying school in Ontario, California for a while, but I couldn't learn how to land the airplane, so they did what they call wash me out. They sent me to a mechanics school in Amarillo, Texas for summer, the summer of 43, and then sent me up to Chanute Field for further training in the electronics of the B-17 and the B-24. I stayed there as an instructor after I finished that school, and then it was there they found out about my German descent and the fact that I had spoken the language all my life. They pulled me out of the Air Force, which was then a part of the Army, so it wasn't hard for them to transfer me from there to what was known as counterintelligence. They sent me to Camp Ritchie in Maryland for a couple of months, and then we spent a month at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia studying German and Germany in German. We left the middle of May for Germany, and I landed in about the 17th or 18th of May on the Czech border, looking for Nazis, checking displaced persons, people who had run ahead of the war into Czechoslovakia. We were checking them as they came back into Germany, checking to see whether there were any Nazis in them. We were in a little community called Eslarn. I got acquainted with the Sister Superior of the local convent, who was a very dear old lady, and she took a shine to me for some reason, I don't know why, and she was my main informant. She informed me about the local Hitler youth leader, and I arrested him. He was just a youth. I think we just sent him back home. He was kind of a smart alecky youngster. And then she told me about a man who had been in Hitler's elite guard, what was known as the Black SS. SS stands for Schutzstaffel, or his main protective group. And I arrested him. I had a very, very interesting thing happen. He was a big man, and I was only about 5'9" and weighed about 150 pounds. But had that man made any kind of an effort to get away, I couldn't have done a thing about it because my pistol was buried under 3 layers of clothes. It was cold up in those mountains. So I stayed in Germany until the middle of December of 45 rather, and then I had what a point level that I could get out of the service. The leader of my team told me that if I would stay in the Army and go underground in Germany, they would give me a commission in the Army. I was a corporal. And I said, no thanks, I'm going home to my wife. And by that time, we had a little boy. So that went well. That's kind of the end of the experience, my experience in World War II. I came home and settled in Texas City, where I'd grown up, and in a short time, my wife and I invested in a little business of our own. It was the credit bureau for the local retail merchants association, and through my training in the CIC, the Counterintelligence Corps, I knew how to operate the business, and but in 3 years the Lord called me to be a preacher, so we sold the business, and we went to Fort Worth for me to get seminary education at the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary there, and I graduated from that with a BD degree, Bachelor of Divinity, and from Fort Worth we went out to Arizona, and I was pastor of the Baptist church in Florence, Arizona, which is the prison town, for 3 years. And then I went down to about 25 miles out of Tucson in the middle of a cotton patch to the pastor of the Baptist church there. And I stayed there almost 4 years and came to Houston and finally wound up organizing a Baptist church in Houston and serving it for 7 years. I dropped out of it. I resigned that church because I had a bug to go back to school and get a doctorate degree so I could teach in a college or even possibly a seminary. But my wife balked at that, and so that didn't pan out. I was out of a pastorate for about a year, and then I became pastor of the first Christian church in Cleveland, and I served, as I've said, I served it for 12 years. I was going to say something that was kind of odd, but I've forgotten what it was, and so I won't deal with it. And here I am, a widower at 98 years old, and loving Cleveland, and just being, trying to do my best. When I got too old to be in the pulpit, the Lord put a pen in my hand, and the Cleveland Advocate has let me be a writer for it for quite a few years now. Thank you.